The southern resident killer whales, this was research done back in the early 70s and by Ken Belk in particular starting from 1976. They particularly hunt for salmon, and then even more particularly with king salmon or Chinook salmon is their preferred prey. And then Chinook is a fish that's also beleaguered and endangered.
We're talking about a culture of beings that were here before we were. They were the original harvesters of salmon. The federal government was sued by a couple of nonprofit organizations to list them on the endangered species list. The three main identified threats were vessel presence and associated noise, toxicants, pollutants in the water, and then loss of quality and quantity prey, specifically Chinook salmon. There's an inherent disconnect in the fact that we are trying to recover Chinook salmon in order for humans to kill Chinook salmon. It used to be that we would say, oh, JPOD is on the west side of San Juan Island, and that meant all members of JPOD would be on the west side of San Juan Island. Now when people say that, you have to kind of clarify what they're talking about. Well, exactly who's there? And that's indicative of the fact that there's not enough fish in this water to bring them in and keep them here. And that's not good.
So, and I guess I'll just be, I don't support breaching the dams, those 4 dams. So right now, the 4 lower snake are still being used, and it's and contributing to the economy. They're also contributing to the debate about the salmon population.
Inland Northwest salmon recovery has been a topic of discussion for decades.
Wait, Kim, how can these animals share a political affiliation? Is this an Obama versus Mitt Romney situation? Or a Trump versus, well, everybody? How do the politics of ecology work? Who is involved? How did we get here? What is the issue? And most importantly, why should inland Northwesterners care about what's going on off the coastal waters of Washington State?
These same Chinook, while recognized as a key component in the killer whale's diet, have still not rebounded despite continued efforts by state, tribal, and federal entities, and are at an all-time low in population since records began in 1984.
Environmental issues that have required worldwide cooperation before? Really? Now you're going to take off.
Currently, I'm a grad student in a master's program at University of South Florida, and I'm here on the San Juan Island. So basically my study is really taking a look at all the stakeholders surrounding orca conservation and this particular ecotype, the endangered southern resident killer whales. It involves a lot of different people.
Or even when everybody's working towards a common goal, it can be challenging sometimes for everybody to realize the different perspectives that are involved.
It's amazing to talk to some of these stakeholders and see that there's still a huge passion that's driving them to come back to the table. Should we be afraid to tackle this multi-stakeholder issue? It's I would definitely flip it, and I would say I'd be afraid not to tackle it. If we manage to really help the southern resident killer whales bounce back from endangered status to stable and proliferating, it will be a huge message across the globe, really, that we can tackle very complex issues and we can do it well.
I have to believe that we can prevent their extinction. They've been here for so long. They evolved here. This is their home. They deserve to be here. When you talk to local indigenous peoples, they talk about these whales being their brothers, their sisters, part of their family. So I can only imagine the sadness of watching that part of your family disappear.
What we call the Cohamuchton people, they're what we consider the people that live under the water.
It's time to call upon everyone to take a stand, and it's time for Tokatai, Lolita, our Cohamuchton to come home.
So the solution to phasing out the keeping of orcas in concrete tanks performing for their supper is sanctuary. I can tell you their life in the tanks is short and it is miserable. And we all got together and we said, how about we do something about this? How about we create a whale sanctuary? We have 2 sites that we're interested in here in the San Juans that we'll tell you more about.
We've always had a perfect location. Location is 90% of a good plan for a sanctuary.
We're working very closely with Howard Garrett, the Orca Network, with the tribes that are also having a strategy going forward for how Tokutai could be brought back.
We will know everything about their pathogen load, their immune system function, their disease history.
Yes, it's very much high time. Long past due. It was long past due when we started this over 20 years ago.
It's up to us to help protect and speak out for our relatives that live under the water. They're dying. Look at poor Tahlequah, the mother.
This Puget Sound region back 100 years ago was one of the finest places a whale could ever be and prosper and live. I remember when the fishing boats looked like a city out on the west side every summer when they were fishing salmon, you know, the purse seiners in the day and the gill netters at night. Over the years it slowly dissipated little by little. And of course now we're faced with this dilemma where the local whales are in very much a decline.
Really, what's the importance to this ecosystem that the southern residents provide? Their purpose here is to be almost like sentinels for what this ecosystem should be.
Well, when I was growing up, a lot of houses along the shores were just dumping their waste directly into the water. I do understand that Snake River dams are a problem. The fish already have to go around 4 or 5 dams in the lower Columbia. The temperatures behind the Snake River dams are quite high, and the fish are, well, not want to say met. They naturally are drawn to pebbly streams, and the dams interfere with their travel. Well, they breached the Elwha River Dam, and my understanding is that the salmon have come back there. It's kind of a miracle that that happened, and what it's doing has been very beneficial for the environment. And I'd have never really been in the Snake River or to the Snake River Dam, so I don't know, but I hear that they're mostly there for transportation of wheat down the Columbia, to be transported off to God knows where, China maybe, or somewhere around the Pacific.
I am doing a documentary on the southern resident killer whales. I thought it'd be fun to get people's attention about the issues with the whales and, you know, reach out to everyone and basically create a bigger understanding about the issue.
This transported me. Amber's ballet, I could see the body movement of the whales. I could see how the whales were moving through the water because of the way that her dancers were moving. And it was stunning. It was stunning for me to see. And it left me wanting to see more of that. We need to engage the artistic community. We need to engage artists to help us tell the story of what's happening with these whales.